Well, holy smokes. Getting this thing to go live was a little arduous. Okay, I've been a little down on the whole live streaming thing for the last few days and have been sort of focusing on just getting the work done. However, today I'm actually diverting a bit to an old project. So this is back in the day before I wrote or came up with the concept for Salt and Light. This is what I was working on. And I was just thinking about some of the AI tools that are out there for generating the voices, because the thing with this was that it was always supposed to be kind of an anime thing, and so because of that, the voices presumably would have been in Japanese. And so when I did it, I just cribbed some dialogue lines from an anime, Gintama to be specific. I just took some dialogue lines. I think that particular anime had a lot of spots where there was no musical underscore underneath the voices or sound effects gumming up the works. And so anyway, I put that stuff in as placeholders. So what I'm doing here today is I'm thinking, well, the question is whether this project is really a viable thing to release at some point. And for me, it might be a little anal, but for me, the audio aspect of it is kind of an important part. Basically, looking back at it, I haven't looked at it in a long time, and what I see, feels pretty good as far as the animation. And let me see what just happened there. Looks like we have a clip that's missing. That's kind of weird. I have to come back to that. It's actually an interesting question, though. Now that since we're bumping into it, let's deal with it. So this could be a black, just a clip of a whole bunch of nothing. Let's see what this says. This says, might be easier to read too. Let me see if it's over here. Well, I guess it wouldn't be here. It'd be down here. Yeah, let's see here. I've never done this before in the video sequence editor. The question is, can we get to the just see clearly information about the clip? There we go. There it is. So it's under render 001BA 0250. Let me see. Fails enemy render. And there it is. Boy, that's a long clip. 311. Ah, this is probably what it is. It's probably this shot of these two guys looking back. I'll bet you that's what that is. Let me see. So, not to distract too much with what I'm looking at is, again, forgive me, I haven't spent tons of time grokking out all the minutia of the Blender sequence editor. What I'm curious about, though, is this seems to be being treated as either a this .0245. Yeah, this is quite a long sequence. 0245. So we'll get to the AI stuff here in a minute. This is the shot I'm looking for. So we want to go from 34 to 311. 34 to 311. How do I tell this clip to go from 0234 to 311? And it would be, I mean, you can change the data files. Let me just see what happens if I grab this as a boop, 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 boop. Where is it? Hello. There we go. You just grab this, and what I want to do is grab the whole batch. And if anybody's watching and they know something I don't, let's just run that. Okay, it still doesn't show it, and I just don't know what to do. So instead of wasting a bunch of time here on the live stream with that, I will guarantee it's like everything else with software. And notably, there is a marker there, so I must have made a note of it in the past that there was something wrong here. But I just don't know what to do, and I know the answer is probably so simple: click, click, done. But I just don't know what to do, so I can't fix it. All right, so we'll keep going. Okay, so the first line of dialogue is, "What do you think you're doing?" And so what I thought was, let's just go to Google Translate and okay, so basically there it is, and then what I'm doing is taking this and I'm going to cut it into CapCut. I'm playing around with CapCut. CapCut looks like a pretty good little suite of tools, and just generate the dialogue with one of these voices. A lot of these voices will speak various languages. The deficiency, just for the record, for completeness, the deficiency I see with every single publicly available, more or less free-ish AI audio tool that I have tried is that the most important thing for me as a creator is the ability to create custom voices. In other words, to train the AI on the voices I created that I own, or I am actually generating in real time by, playing the roles of the characters that I play in my show, or to be able to upload, let's just say, Natalie's voice so that I can generate TNR dialogue for the Chronicles of Melchizidek without having to bother Natalie. What I find is they all have this same weakness. The voice cloning, number one, fails, I'm going to just say 90% of the time. Like 90% of the time, I'll read something, it takes a 15-second snapshot of audio, and it will start processing the audio and then fail. And then and there's never any kind of description of what went wrong. It just says something went wrong. And so that's kind of a deficiency, because the pathway to giving the user some sort of useful indication of what went wrong, you're not going to understand the techie stuff, okay? But you certainly might say to yourself, oh my God, it fails 8 out of 9 times. Why don't I not use this tool? That's what a commonsensical person would say. So the net result, not necessarily an intentional result, but the result is that when it fails, all you get is, oops, something went wrong. And then you try again. And the thing is, you'll keep trying again 50 times until it, so why is this failing like literally almost every time? I have no idea. The first time I tried it, it worked. I did the voice of Asher and created a clone voice, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Every single other voice that I've tried, it just says, oops, something went wrong. That's deficiency number one. Deficiency number two is that this particular tool doesn't provide a way to upload. Like, it would be better for me if it's my own voice to record it in the studio as opposed to this microphone, which, as you can see, a lot of times has peepops and stuff, because it's a cheapo headset. Wouldn't it be better if I could go in my studio, record a pretty decent quality, studio grade WAV file and just upload that. Well, that would make a lot of sense because, of course, I've got good clean recordings of all the voices that were used in the previous episode. But there's a problem, and the problem is the one thing you can't do is upload your own audio clip. Not with CapCut. There's other platforms that let you do it. The TTS algorithm that's all the rage right now is all the rage, specifically because it allows you to generate a good voice clone with only like 15 seconds of audio to work with. The caveat being, does it create a good enough voice clone? The answer is usually no, for two reasons. Number one, the cloning itself of the timbral qualities of the voice is pretty good. Where it falls apart is just the overall audio quality. You hear artifacting in the audio that right out of the gate disqualifies it for usage in a professional program. If you're creating YouTube videos, that's fine. Whatever you're doing, it's probably fine. Once you get to, I'm talking about this is going to be on broadcast television, let's say. Is it good enough for that? And the answer is emphatically not even close. Not even close. If you listen with headphones, if you listen closely, it sounds fine on a phone. But any kind of reasonably, just north of garbage audio system will quickly reveal that it basically sucks. But that's just the TTS algorithm. I don't think that's what they're using here. Now, I don't know what 11 Labs does. So all of these voices are pretty good. So let's just kind of take a poke around. Create a new AI, I guess it'd be text-to-speech is what we're looking for. Okay, so I translated from English. I just took the exact dialogue. So there is the issue of, wait a minute, we use certain idioms in English that are meaningful to us as English speakers that actually might not make sense in another language, such that when you translate, what you're going to get is, it'd be like something a Japanese person, for example, would never say. That's possible. That's certainly a risk. In this case, I think what I'm going to do is just go, I have no idea. Let's just grab Natasha and see if we can get a preview. Oh, and I need to turn on the... Okay, she talks fast.
何をしてると思ってるの?
Alright, you get the idea. So, would this be good enough?
何をしてると思ってるの?
For a show? I think so. Yeah, I'd say so. Like I said, I didn't really love Natasha's voice.
Hi there. Feel free to enter your text here and select a voice to...
If I was gonna... And I'm just thinking about what the voice for...
Hi there. Feel free to enter your...
Definitely not. what the voice for Akari would have been.
Hi there. Feel free to enter your...
No, that's not it. I'll know it when I hear it. It's one of those kind of deals. So anyway, you could play around with this.
何をしてると思ってるの?
Not bad. Some of these you can adjust. This one you can adjust the speed. A lot of them you can adjust the pitch as well. I wonder what the heck they came up with for Father Christmas.
Hi there. Feel free to enter your text here and select a voice to try it out.
That's supposed to
You can also upload a video.
Father Christmas. Okay, I'm using...
Hi there. Feel free to enter your text...
Ooh, that'll be interesting. A British accent modulated by speaking in Japanese.
何をしてると思ってるの?
What the hell? Okay, never mind. I needed to click. Okay, it wasn't enough to preview this one. You have to click it so that the little oval shows up around it. But you knew that. You already
何
knew
をしてると思ってるの?
Now that's not bad.
何をしてると思ってるの?
Okay, so let's generate it. Pretty simple. And then I think you just download it, and then ostensibly I could smack it into my show. And what I would probably do... Now, honestly, if I'm going to go down this road, I need to go to the anime folder to... What would this be? Audio? character placeholders. Okay, so let's just... I think, if I was going to do this the way I normally do things, I would call that 001 because I would assume that maybe we're going to come up with 999 or more of them. And then I would put whatever the dialogue was, which I think was who are you? Or what do you think you're doing? Okay. So I would go, what do you think you're... I'll leave the apostrophe out. Okay, and actually, if I was going to be really meticulous about it, I would put Akari. So that I know, so this is numbered, that way they stay in order. This is Akari. And then later, of course, if I had 1,500 of them, I could sort them by both the number and the first letter, which would be, in this case, A for Akari. So, okay, so if we put that down there, and by the way, on these headphones, if the audio quality isn't that great, I can't tell. I literally cannot tell. It sounds fine in my headphones. So for now, because I'm just playing around with the technology, I don't really care. Okay, so then all we would do is drop this in here. Boop. Right there. Okay, and that's... I'm going to just move that up. Alright, let's just see what happens.
何をしてると思ってるの?
I like that voice with her.
何をしてると思ってるの?
Now, the question then becomes, well, what if the AI generates... Because remember, one thing you could do is actually directly from Google Translate. I don't know if this is an intellectual property violation or not. I have no idea, but for my purposes, I'm just going to say, you could do this.
何をしてると思ってるの?
Right? You could just record that and play around with it. But then the question becomes, well, what can you do with it? In this case...
何をしてると思ってるの?
I have to say the fidelity of that sounds really good to me. I'll have to listen to it on a better system. But for now, as a starting point, not bad. Okay, so there's a couple things I would want to do here just in the matter of housekeeping. And I think one of them would be over here in the audio folder. Let's do it this way. We might be able to actually approach the problem we had with our image sequence earlier here in a different way. And here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put in a folder here, and let's just call this dialogue. Okay? Now, if I take this Akari recording and move it into the dialogue, okay, it says the file is open in Blender. All right? So that's... I actually didn't think that would happen, but I'm going to save the Blender file and close it. And then when I reopen it, of course, the audio file will be in the wrong place, obviously. So why did I do that? Well, number one, to organize the files better, but also because I know this is in the wrong place and will not play, now I have to solve it over here. So I'm going to hit Control Spacebar to just go to full screen on this panel. And then what I want to do is browse here to the correct location, which would be here. Accept that. And now it should play back. Poof.
何をしてると思ってるの?
Okay, cool. So we solved that problem. Still don't know what to do about that one video clip that's missing. I guess it would be this one. But we can always just put it back in there anyway. So anyway, Akari goes,
何をしてると思っ
what
て
do
る
you
の?
think you're doing here? And he says, okay, don't even think about it. Let's go ahead and try that one from scratch just to kind of go through the process. So what is the process? The process is Google Translate. All right. Step one is don't even think about it. Okay, so now I don't know how Google Translate is with emphasis. I assume it sucks at it, but let's just try it. So this would be don't... Actually, let me do it this way. Do not even think about it. Okay, it'll be interesting. I don't know why that would make a difference. I tend to think it wouldn't.
考えもしないで
Okay, and I'm going to take this now, copy that into CapCut. All right. All right, and I will go ahead and give this a few exclamation points just to see what it does. All right, this is important to remember. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to go Alt Print Screen right here. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm doing this so that it's the simplest visual way to remember what I did, because the link is up here. If I really had to, I could actually read it off an image, although that would be pretty brutal. But then this will let me remember what character I used for Akari. So, how does that help me? Well, what I'm going to do is run Krita real quick and just save a screenshot of this. Okay, meantime, let's go ahead and generate the speech. We'll check the preview out. The preview is in the final song.
考えもしないで
Oh, okay. That is awesome. And very surprising. Okay, so it turns out that adding no exclamation points.
考えもしないで
Okay. I'm going to add one. I did not know it did this.
考えもしないで
That's just emphatic. I like that. Let's use that. That is funny. Okay. So we're going to download the audio, and we're going to put it in the dialogue folder, right? It's a pain to stay organized, but, you know, when you're me and you're dealing with a show that has about 1,500 scenes, this becomes kind of important. So I'm going to hit delete on that, make that number 2, save it, come back to Blender, and where does she say that? She says that here. Okay, so theoretically, I should be able to, from the other screen, drag this to roughly here. Why does Blender always want to put stuff on the wrong track? I just don't know.
考えもしないで
Okay.
考えもしないで
All right, so what I'm going to do,
何をしてると思ってるの
that's not bad. This one, I think what I'm going to do is go back to CapCut and see if we can... I'm going to edit more. Let me see what that does. I haven't done that yet. Wow. Okay. Whole nother thing. Okay. I'm going to skip that for the moment. Right. I get it. You guys are trying to educate me. Wow. There's an expert mode. Oh, export. Can't read. I'm like, whoa, expert mode. No, that's export. Stupid. Okay, so the only thing I was looking at here was the speed. And this may be a great... This is possibly a wonderful interface. I don't know. I'm not inclined at the moment to take the time with it, mainly because I'm live streaming. But basically what I'm going to look at here is this. I'm going to take her speed and just... Let's lower it a little bit.
Hi there. Feel free to
Yep.
enter your text.
I just want to compare the two. Compare. Okay. So let's preview this one.
考えもしないで
Yeah, I like that better. Audio only. So this is, don't even think about it. Yeah, because she would say it more emphatically. All right, so this is now probably not going to be long enough, but let's see.
考えもしないで考えもしないで考えもしないで
Okay. So Blender, that's interesting. Let's look at a couple things here. again, we're kind of both learning. Learning as we go. Let's just play the waveform. Okay, that's useful. Mono doesn't really matter for my purposes. So if we reload this, let's save this. Right now, you can see this is
考えもしないで
a little fast. Okay, so I'm going to open recent and just reload this. Does that work?
考えもしないで
Not really. Okay, so let's close. Oh, for crying out loud, Blender. I'm going to not save this. And then just reopen it.
考えもしないで
Why is it still playing the fast one? I'm not sure. Well, duh. Well, it doesn't make sense, actually, because I did resave it over the other one. Okay. Let me pop this open.
考えもしないで考えもしない
Yeah, it's fast. That's fast. So I missed a step, apparently. This is 1053. This is 1055. Okay. So my mistake. Just
考えもしないで考えもしないで
okay. Well, this is one of these things that just, guys, for me, this always happens with no exceptions whenever I'm live streaming. Something bizarre will happen, like literally every time, and it'll always be something that I've never seen before that's completely baffling. So I saved this. Now I save this. As you can see, I keep repeatedly saving it over the same one. If this was generated later than this, so there's no way that this could be the fast one and this could be the slow one. That would be impossible, and yet
考えもしないで考えもしない
okay, so now it's generated the same thing both times. Okay, so maybe what I'm missing here, probably what's going wrong here, is that I'm not realizing that this speed
Hi there Feel free to enter your text and
probably
select a voice
has
to try it
nothing
out.
to do with the audio.
You can also
that's
upload a
generated.
video or audio.
Probably has nothing to do with the audio that's generated. This is only so you can preview and slow it down and get a judgment about that. Okay, if that's the case, then we might as well put this back in. And, it kind of gets us into the Reaper zone here, because if we want to slow it down, we need, in a high quality way, we need to use some better tools probably. Okay, well, the tool of choice for that might be pulse stretch in Audacity. So let's take a look at that. We're going to open Reaper, and we're also going to open Audacity. So it's just like we want a high quality way to slow this down a little bit. Okay, so let's just see what we have.
考えもしないで
Right? Okay, so we want to select this whole region. This is for those of you who want to use free tools for things, right? So the effect would be pulse stretch. There it is. And the stretch factor 0.5 or 1.5. I'm going to put this on the other screen so I can freaking see it. Stretch factor, I would say 0.8 is what we were going for before. And okay, so again, this is one of those things that to me just is bafflingly bizarre. So we've got a preset. We've got a stretch factor and a time resolution. I changed the stretch factor, which means I'm saying to the software, you're about to do something to change something with the data you work with. So you would think that that alone, just changing this from 1.5 to 0.8, would mean I could hit apply and actually fucking do it. Of course, no, that's wrong. There's always some bizarre thing. Always. Is it that you only get to use a preset if you first saved it. Okay. Actually, we'll call this slow to 80%. Yeah, that would be... Must not be... Oh, I see. Okay, right. I'm working in reverse. Okay, so... call me stupid. I don't mind. I was thinking 80% means 80% of the original speed, when in fact everything is the opposite. 1.2 means have it play for 1.2 times as long as it was natively, and therefore that's the stretch. Okay, I get it now. Alright, let's see what happened. Okay, Paul stretch is summarily and unceremoniously discarded as even remotely close to usable. However, it could be, like everything else, that this is all my fault and everyone else in the free world knows what to do and I just don't. Well, my assumption would be this. Let's go 0.05. So we've essentially cut the time resolution in half, which means that the slowing operation should be happening on smaller collections of samples. Maybe that will increase. No, absolutely worthless. Okay, so stop everything. Get out of here. Okay, so we tried that and we found out that Paul stretch, which is supposed to be really good in Audacity, is not even, it's not even in the game. It's not even up to bat, let alone being good enough to actually use. So here's the audio. Now in Reaper, and you can do this in Vegas too, because Vegas uses the same time stretching algorithm. But what we'll do is our algorithm for pitch is going to be, I think, Elastic 2.1 Soloist. Now, if you have a later version of Reaper than me, which my version is like 13 years old or something, you may find that there are even better tools than this. But I have used this particular algorithm, which is Elastic, in many feature films, and nobody's ever noticed the manipulation. Okay, so now that I did that, I can hit Control, or I'm sorry, I believe it's Alt in Reaper. I can take Alt and just stretch this out a bit. Okay, so yeah, and see, as you can see here in the little window, Reaper calls this 0.8. Okay, so now you can understand why, idiot that I am, when I was using Paul stretch, I thought 80%. Some people think like that. 80% means 80% of the speed versus play it for 1.2 times as long a period of time. Both of them mean slow it down. Okay, so you get it? It's actually not quite slow enough, in my opinion. Hit the Alt key. Let me go a little further. Okay, so using the soloist mode of Elastic seems to optimize its operation on the human voice. As far as I can tell, this sounds really good. Now, I'm going to hit Control-Shift-A in Reaper to select the whole wave. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Control-G combination. And what that just did was it pre-rendered this wave file. Why did I do that? I pre-rendered it because if I don't, I can't render it and save it back over the audio clip that I'm manipulating, can I? So I had to hit Control-G to more or less cache a new copy, a pre-render, so that I can render that, because right now that means that Reaper is no longer referencing this MP3, since I baked it, as it were. Now I can, whoopsie poo, I didn't mean to hit record. So now we'll hit Control Alt R, and we will save this as Anime. Let's just dance around, and we will find it. There it is. And this is supposed to be, unfortunately, an MP3. So this is wrong. This should be mono. This should be MP3. This should probably be 192, should be known. And we want to render the time selection. Boop. Go. That was easy. Okay, let's, actually it wasn't that easy. Now does Blender hold this in memory or not?
考えもしないで
No! It appears, okay, so that's something else we've learned today. It appears that if you change an audio file that Blender is referencing, it will be modified in real time here in Blender if you modify it with a third-party program. Okay?
考えもしないで
Okay, so the other question that comes to mind is, what if the emotion and whatnot that we have here wasn't quite what we were looking for?
考えもしないで
That one's pretty good. Let me listen to this one.
何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの
Alright. Let's play with this one for a minute. I'll show you what I would do if I wanted to modify it. Although, in this case, I actually think it sounds pretty good as it is. So let's mute that track. Okay. The way I would do it is like this. I would say, well, what we're trying to do, and we might want to normalize this just to be, just to sort of be complete. Okay, what I would do is I would add a pitch shifter. Okay, which is going to be the Cuckoo's, you guys can't see this, but it's Cuckoo's repitch. Okay, so I just added repitch, and I want repitch to use the same algorithm, which is 2.1 elastic soloist. Okay, now I'm not going to change the pitch right this instant, although
何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの
As you
何
can
をしてる
see,
と
I
思ってる
could.
の何をしてると思ってる
Okay,
の
now watch
何
what
をしてると思
happens.
ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの
You get on about a fifth or so, musically speaking. That's when it starts degrading. You can almost always speed things up almost as much as you want, and I won't explain why. It basically has to do with the sample resolution. If you speed things up, I'll put it this way. If you speed something up, you can actually just remove samples, and the human ear can't really tell that those samples got removed. So the net result is that everything just plays faster, but it sounds principally the same. That's the simple explanation. When you slow things down, you need to interpolate what the samples of audio would be if they existed, when in fact they don't. And so you have to have a smooth reproduction of the shape of the wave while inserting new data that wasn't in the original wave. Anyway, getting back to the task at hand, what I would do here is I would go into my automation options, and I would say this, shift semitones, turn that on. Okay, so now Reaper has created an envelope for that.
と思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの
So
と思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何
I'm just going to try something completely ridiculous.
と思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの何を
Okay, so you can hear the distortion. There absolutely is distortion. I won't say there isn't.
と思ってるの何をしてると思ってるの
But the thing you have to remember about that is this. In a movie situation or a show situation, generally speaking, actually, audio is fairly dark. I'm going to go ahead and brighten this voice up to almost a ridiculous degree.
何をしてると思ってるの
There you go. And then what I'm going to do is add just to add an EQ, and I'll show you that in the normal case, with audio in a show or in a movie, you can actually do a bandpass filter and set the bandwidth pretty much where you want, but 2 isn't too bad. Centered on about 1,000 hertz, or maybe 1,200, 1.2K, as they say. Okay, now listen to this.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？
I've
何をしてる
done
と思ってるの？
entire films
何をしてると思ってるの？
where all the audio in the whole
何をしてる
movie
と思
was
ってる
like
の？
this.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？
I'm
何をし
pushing,
てると思ってる
I'm
の？
pumping up the
何
bottom
を
a
してる
bit.
の？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何を
Okay,
してる
that's a
と思
little
ってるの？
dark.
何をしてると
Now
思ってる
listen
の？
to when
何
we
をして
take
ると
this
思っ
off.
てるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？
Okay, almost any normal human being would say that with the effects turned off, it sounds better.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をして
And you're correct.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をして
In terms of full bandwidth audio fidelity, it does sound better. Problem is, in context, it won't sound better. And the reason is that when you're putting together a soundtrack, what you want to think about is almost think about it like a graph where you've got, maybe I should just draw it here in Krita. And by the way, I never did save that image. I wonder if it's still on the clipboard. Yeah, let me just save this real quick. This is going to be in the anime. Sorry that I'm sniffing in your ears here a little bit. Do I want audio? It wasn't audio. Yeah, it was audio. Dialogue. Okay, and this is going to be just like a JPEG. And this would be, sorry to keep saying, CapCut. Okay, so fine. Back here. Okay, so this would be CapCut settings. And that would be for Akari. Okay, so now we save that. Okay, this is something that you can play around with on your own. You can download Reaper, by the way, for free. It is not a simple program. It'd be like downloading Blender for free and thinking you're going to be productive the first 10 minutes. It ain't going to happen. Probably. Maybe it will, but it probably won't. Okay, so just plan accordingly. All right, so let me just, that was not supposed to happen. I'm moving too quickly. Slow everything down. Slow everything down. Okay. You could think of it this way. The audio as recorded, I don't know why the default for the background is 0 opacity, but okay. So I'm going to go delete. Okay, so if you think of the bandwidth of the voice taking up this space, and then you say, well, you might actually have a little bit of pink noise or brown noise in your show that creates just like a okay, and it's super quiet, and you're going to put a filter over it so that if you went from dead silence to the pink noise being on, you would notice it. But if it's on all the time, you don't notice it. Okay? So when we're thinning out the voice, what we're basically doing, and I'm not saying the way I do it is perfect, right? I mean, there's more than one approach here. But when you thin out the voice, you're reducing mainly you're taking out the bottom. And then what happens is it leaves room for some music and maybe some little sound effects, a little squeaking door, or even something musical up here. And what you're doing is you're thinking of your soundtrack in terms of a soundscape that has dimensions to it, where this is high frequency and this is low frequency. This, of course, is time. And then you've got volume, the volume of the sound. And each aspect has its own volume profile. But it's kind of amazing. You can have, you could have a singer on a song, and then you got your guitar player that's playing power chords. And it does happen to be true that the frequency range of the guitar and the frequency range of the voice will bump into each other. And so what you find is if you create a notch filter, like you add an EQ to the guitar that puts a notch right in this frequency range, what happens is the guitar can be louder in the mix, and yet you'll still hear the voice clearly because you carve a little pocket out of it. And those are the kind of things you want to be thinking about with audio, with music, with visuals. You're trying to strike a balance, right, of all the components that are working together. So anyway, I'm not going to save this because I don't actually want this
何を
pitch
してる
change.
と思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてる
But you notice in the original, she has a lift at the end like she's asking a question.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？な
This is more. It still asks a question because it does pitch up, but but it ends more emphatically.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何を
And it's not good enough, by the way. To really get this to be good enough, this would have to really drop like crazy, I think.
思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をして
And it's tricky. This is where you could basically spend an hour dicking around with it, and
るの？何をして
because the way that's inflected, I don't even know what you want. It's like something like this. It's something like this where you're wanting a drop and then a lift.
るの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何を
That's better. That is better. So I'm not giving you a definitive answer here. For now, I'm going to leave it as it is in the
してる
show.
の？何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？な
But here, without any effects, it sounds like a steady rise in
て
pitch.
るの？何をしてると思ってるの？な
Blah 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 blah. Versus
てるの？何をしてるの？何をしてると思ってるの？何
blah 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 blah. There's a little bit more of an inquisitive feeling to it. Gosh, actually, I've changed my mind. I am going to re-record that. Okay, so stop this. Hold on, Dave. Time out. Control G. Make a local copy of it.
と思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？
Okay, so now I can render this over top of this. Just because I just like the attitude better. Now, I'm not going to leave Reaper open because I'm not planning to do a ton of audio work today. But let's see if this did update as I said it should.
何をしてると思ってるの？
I can't tell.
何をしてると思ってるの？
Oh, there it is. Okay, that's weird.
何をしてると思ってるの？
And it's badly distorted.
何をしてると思ってるの？
Wow,
考
that's
えもしないで。
yeah, that's bad. That introduced a problem, and of course, I just closed Reaper, which means I can't even get back to. I could if I jumped through some hoops, but okay. So that means I'm gonna go back here and just re-download this one. Sorry, my mistake, friends. And that should have restored it.
何をしてると思ってるの？
And it doesn't yet.
何をしてると思ってるの？
I see. It's so funny because I swear I've said this on this channel a million times. Is I absolutely, with no exceptions, ever do anything right the first time. I've just gotten used to it. It's just the my fate.
何をしてると思ってるの？何をしてると思ってるの？
Okay, that sounds like it's the right one.
何をしてると思ってるの？
All right. I'm glad I can laugh about it. Okay, so on the other screen, I'm just going to make this simple on myself. I am going to just effectively, I'm going to leave Blender open, but I'm going to effectively close that file. And I'm on the other screen, I'm just going to rename this file that I just created per the name that it was before. Okay, so now when I reload this, it should be referencing the correct audio file. And the waveform doesn't look right.
何をしてると思ってるの？
It is the correct audio though. Okay,
考えも
so
しない
getting back to the beginning here, and by the way, this one's a little hot. Let's hit, I guess, Shift? Yeah, Shift lets you do a controlled mod on your volume.
何をしてると思う？考えもしないで。何をしてると思ってるの？考えもしないで。
Okay. So anyway, this seems like a reasonably viable way to get real Japanese voices into this show. So, and I like her deadpan.
考えもしないで。
Unless you want to be paralyzed. Unless you want to be paralyzed. I wonder if this is possible. Grab this. Yes, I can grab this. Control C. Google Translate. Unless you want to be paralyzed. Grab this. Go back to CapCut. Paste this in. We're generating it with this same one. Here's the preview.
間引したくないなら。
Alright, that's fine. That's good enough. Generating and download the audio. And this would be 003. Akari. Unless you want to be paralyzed. Okay, so you get the idea. This is the way this is going to go. And that's the whole process, really. Okay. Blender, interestingly here, oh, okay, weird. A moment ago, this would not move with my middle mouse button. But, okay, so unless you want to be paralyzed is here, right? Okay, so we're going to grab this. And like I said, that gives you the whole story. For some reason, okay, I'm going to delete this. What it looks like Blender is doing, it's a strange choice, but it looks like wherever this is, if I had to judge what's going on, I would say wherever we're positioned here, whatever track is the highest, within the panel is where Blender puts the clip. Let's see if that's true. Nope. So for whatever reason, it's almost like it's not like it put it on the first available empty track. I'm not sure what Blender's doing in terms of how it's deciding what to do there, but not the end of the world.
考えもしないで。
Chiziapo had a
間引した
question.
くないなら。
I'm revisiting this anime that I was working on before I was working on the Chronicles of Melchizidek, for the purpose of seeing if the AI tools that are available, cheap to free, will do a suitable job of generating Japanese dialogue.
何をしてると思ってるの？
I'm pretty happy with what I see, especially if you had any ambience.
考えもしないで。間引したくないなら。
I love that. That's very deadpan. Okay, so here's the thing. Even if there are some fidelity flaws in the audio, once you've got a musical underscore under it and around it, as well as ambiance and sound effects, pretty much this is good enough that whatever might be wrong with it, you won't be able to hear, really.
何をしてると思ってるの？
So,
考えもしないで。間引したくないなら。
ha, 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 ha. That's more like it. Okay, so anyway, this is for demonstration purposes, and clearly it will just be more of this. On and on and on and on and on it goes. But this is a fun show. And frankly, I'd like to release it. You know, most of this was done, I would say, going back, I'm thinking most of this was done with OpenTunes. But when I did this was also the period of time when I was starting to get into using Krita. So this would be about 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, something like that. That's an interesting shot. That one was clearly done in Blender. he really kind of ticked her off. This is kind of fun to watch. I was going to say, I haven't seen it. I haven't even looked at this in quite a while. But I like the storytelling. She rips her dress. I forgot about that. That's fun. One thing you can see in those shots right there, I should redo these shots. I should pull up the original art and redo them, because you can see back in the day, I don't know if this was early, it might have been something to do with cutting and pasting from Krita to OpenTunes or Krita to Tahoma, but you get this corruption around the alpha channel, basically at the edges of everything, like that. Like, that's really bad. Now, you could argue that in this particular case, it's an unusual case where it actually works, because it makes it easier to see the outline of the guy, right? Yeah, 2018. Okay, so that'd be 6 years ago. 279. Okay, yeah, in 279, yes. When I was mapping images, which some of which were probably created in GIMP, for crying out loud, but when I was mapping either OpenTune renders or other images to a plane in Blender in 2.79, there was a specific setting that I can still remember needed to be set to 0.5 that had to do with how Blender using OpenGL rendering, because back then to do it I would be hitting Control F10 to actually do an OpenGL render. This was before we had Eevee, and Blender 2.8 was of course a thing, but I was still using the 2.79, which is effectively the 0.5 series, if you will. So, but yeah, some people have said to me, "Geez, Dave, you should release that too." I mean, if Salt and Light's doing okay, which it is, why not get more titles on the shelf, right? Well, yeah, I'm with you. It requires some work. But I love the attitudinal stuff in this. I do think there's some things I could probably do better today, but probably not that much. I mean, basically, I think my talent is what it is, and the improvement. I've improved a little in my drawing. At least it's more consistent. Characterization is more consistent, but I don't know. I think my basic mode of storytelling probably is what it is. That's so silly. Well, Zen, he's a very big guy. Tall guy? Dark red robe? Imposing presence? I feel like he would have a voice kind of like me, or a voice like Melchizedek. Huh. Yeah, this is definitely fun and interesting. Back then, you could do viewport renders. You can still do it in Blender, if I recall correctly. Of course, sequence render image. Yeah, I believe basically from the panel menus, true with Grease Pencil as well, you can still do basically a render of what you see in the panel. It's just done in a little different way than it was back in the Blender 2.7 days. Not that it matters. I mean, if somebody asked, like, there's probably a total of like 2/3 of one person in the entire world today who would want to know how to do a screen render in Blender, in Blender 2.8 something or 2.9 something. I mean, for crying out loud, Blender's up to, it's pushing version 5. No, I'm kidding. It's in the 4s, and Okay, so this is where Akari was left. She wakes up after this episode, and this is obviously an unfinished shot. And eyes pop open. Where the heck am I? Yada, yada, yada. It does appear that I'm being slightly afflicted by maybe allergies today. So, 4.4, huh? Yeah, the knockout. It's all, I mean, that's the fun, surprises, right? Yeah, I tell you. How did she get knocked out? Isn't that crazy? I don't even remember my own story. Oh, that! Oh, God. Yes. I forgot about that. Okay. All right, so just to bring everything up to date here, actually that was a mistake. I meant to open a recent scene file. Okay, so I have been having fun with Tahoma. Tahoma's turning out to be a win, and the sculpting / liquefy deficiency is just really not that big of a deal most of the time. So on the other screen, we've probably done enough with the AI tools for now. So Scavengers, Rain, and Common Side Effects has the same style. I shared on Discord, and they have a Morbus illustration style to their animations. I don't know what Morbus is, but I'll take your word for it. Okay. So what am I trying? Oh, I need to run Vegas. So on my other screen, I need to pop Vegas up. Boop 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 doo. There's Vegas. And pop up the show. So yeah, quite a bit has happened, I think, since I last live streamed. So we'll just pop it up and see what we've got to work with here. Frighteningly, we are at 22 minutes and 28 seconds, which is pretty crazy. So really, it's the sequence that ends the episode, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and watch this to sort of acclimate my brain to what's going on in the show. There was a little addendum I added to the script that just felt funny to me that I wanted to run with. I actually made I never thought about this when I wrote it, but I made the process like as difficult as possible here in the final sequence because I can't reuse the cuts. Can you see why? In almost every other context, I can reuse cuts and put them in reverse and chop them up. Can't do it here because through the whole sequence, we've got the river, the background drifting behind them. And we can't have the background going in reverse. So, unfortunately, so keep watching here. So we got Melchizedek makes a comment and expresses a little concern about Vespar's not going to give this up. And she's like, well, if you want to get rid of me, just say the word. Well, it's like, I didn't mean that. Well, you were thinking it. And Luca's like, guys, we can do this, kind of thing. Okay, so that's where we're at. Everything's humming right along. When and by the way, one of the reasons I have been enjoying Tahoma is because I have been, I've updated my hotkeys so that they basically match what I do in Krita. So I don't have to keep shifting gears every time I switch apps. Namely, spacebar to play instead of L, and W to rewind instead of K. Now, I'm so used to L and K that I'm fine with it, but I thought, what the heck. And by the way, friends, if you have any questions about custom tooling of your hotkeys in Tahoma, just remember that in the Tahoma stuff folder, there is a folder called Profiles, Users. Your name will be in there somewhere in some form. And there is a file called Shortcuts INI. And I did, in fact, find that there are some hotkeys that trying to change them through the Tahoma interface don't really work. And I can't recap for you what those are at the moment. Just suffice to say that if you study this file, you will see exactly what to do to go ahead and tweak your shortcuts. So I changed the zoom and the rotate. I had reversed in Tahoma. I believe I had shift spacebar to zoom, when in Krita it's control spacebar, and vice versa. So I got those synchronized, and then I just came down here, and again, I can't remember why, but there was something about, I think it was that Tahoma would not detect the spacebar as a key when using its own interface to change shortcuts, like this. And so what I did was I went in here and figured out syntactically, like here, shift plus space did the trick. And control is the usual CTRL plus space. There it is. So anyway, but it's good to know you can tweak this if you want to, and you can customize your hotkeys, and then just rerun Tahoma and everything just works. So pretty convenient, my friends, pretty convenient. All right, so what are we doing? I'm going to start getting rid of these extra windows, and I'll give more thought to what I'm doing with Akari later. But I do think I'm going to continue this path of putting in decent quality dialogue based on AI voices converted to Japanese. Obviously, most of the people that watch it are going to be Westerners. So I'm just emulating the feel and the experience of a native anime. And obviously, again, pretty obvious that if I wanted to just change the voices to English, that would be a doddle. It would be a doddle, my friends. Okay, so let's see what we got here. It looks like Mel is pretty much all painted, other than his mouth. Okay, so for her, for those who are like, dude, why aren't you creating custom palettes like for each of your characters, kind of like you were doing in Blender? Yeah, you're right. I just kind of hadn't gotten to it. Looks like we're in freehand mode. Okay, that kind of worked. Ooh, we sprung a leak. Okay, I'm going to turn the Luca layer off. I did actually have the presence of mind to bust these guys into separate layers. And what I've been doing is whenever I bump into a goofy problem, I stop everything and fix it. No matter what. There's your problem right there. Okay. And Tia, Phil. Hello? That's the wrong color there, fella. Okay, this leaked as well. Probably because of up here. Wait a minute, stop everything. That's the wrong material. In fact, I'm almost inclined to delete that material because I haven't been using it. But yeah. I must be becoming a more disciplined animator or something, because I'm finding that the tedium of just making sure it's all clean and A-okay has been more enjoyable than it used to be. Alright, so there's hello. Okay, so now one important thing to note with Tia is her skin tone's going to be a little bit more towards the olive. And probably for now, that's fine. That's probably all I need to do. This, oh, I think that's Melchizedek's belt. Darn it. I better double check or I'm going to be in trouble. Trouble with a capital T. Actually, I think this is Mel's belt. So what is this? This is nothing. Okay, good. Mel belt. Okay, so this is going to be Tia's hair. I hope you don't mind. Poof. Not bad. So it is the wrong color though. Tia's hair is basically, it's not quite purple like Mel's, but it's kind of more like that. I can ballpark it. Man, there's a lot of comments. Let me go back over here and see what's going on in the comments. And then I may take a short break to grab myself a, let's see, what time is it? 11:42. I'm actually thinking I might grab myself a Baruski. A Baruski. So, oh, you mean you probably mean Mobius. When you said Morbus and Morbius, you probably meant Jean Giraud, also known as Mobius. Is that who you meant? Jean? He died like, golly, man, he died like 30 years ago. Haven't seen common side effects, but Scavenger's Reign is pretty good. It seems to me I've looked at it, but I'm gonna pull it up since you guys both mentioned it. Okay, that's a Netflix show. Okay, I'm gonna look at the trailer. Hang on, let me turn off the sound so I don't get a. I'm gonna turn off the sound so I don't get a, whatever you call it. Scavenger's Reign. Good production, definitely good production. Animation's definitely more detailed than mine. It looks like they're doing a lot at 12 frames per second, not just right. So this is what we're looking at here. This Scavenger's Reign. A lot of the movement is 8 frames per second. The rendering looks really good. The environments look really good. Characterization is not my cup of tea, but it's pretty good. I don't like the way they did the eyes at all, but that's just a taste thing. That's just a preference. They're a little bit on the dead side for me. And for those who wonder, it's mainly because the pupils feel too big and the eyes are completely outlined, as opposed to being outlined heavily on top but lightly on the bottom. It's just a choice though. I mean, you know. This, I guess, for myself, I could turn this down so I'm experiencing it the same way you guys are. Hopefully this won't give me a copyright thingy dingy. I can't imagine why a trailer would. But yeah, I mean, I think if let me put it this way, if I was going to create a poster for this show, it would not be particularly different, you know, stylistically than the poster I did for my show. So yeah, I like what I see, and I'm glad people are liking it, because the more people that like shows like that, probably the more people that'll watch my show. I think. This seems it wants a little bit more saturation. There we go. There we go. I love TNR. Uh-oh. That looks like our next door neighbor. We have a next door neighbor who, the teenage girl, her dad's from Morocco, and she's a typical teenager, and then about a year ago or so, maybe it might be a couple now, she decided to go full bore on the whole Islam thing, and now she wears the, what do you call it, hijab or something? Wears it every day. Phil. There we go. Except, dude, that's the wrong color. So this should be marked as Tia hair. Poof. And we keep going. Yep. Ah, come on, Dave. No, that's okay. I'm finding mistakes and just fixing them. It's not a big deal. And as I said, I've been actually enjoying this the tedium of it. The thing is, I can't emphasize this enough. I've been in the creative space since 1988. Okay, I've been creating radio jingles. I actually haven't done a lot of artsy fartsy cartoony stuff most of my career. That came about, as Amar mentioned, 7 or 8 years ago when I started doing animation here on YouTube, just because it was something I always wanted to do, and thought, well, why not give it a try? Anyway, Phil? Oh, there we go. Anyway, the point I was alluding to is that I happen to think that, generally speaking, if you the slower you go, actually, oftentimes, not always, but usually, the more slowly you go, the more you actually get done. The faster the show gets done. And I think the reason is that when you're more meticulous, number one, you're less stressed out, which feeds the next reason, which is you do make fewer mistakes. You just do. And anyway, that's going to require some punch up, no doubt about it. Did I get all the flesh in there? I guess I did. Okay. So with Tia, let me see. Scavenger's Reign, I haven't seen coming. Scavenger's Reign is pretty good. Yeah, Mobius, exactly. Jean-Claude. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. But, yeah, and I tell you, Mobius was effectively a character that Jean-Claude created for a certain segment of his cartooning career that had a certain style to it. And if you look at some of his other work, he had a really wide bandwidth in terms of his stylistically, really wide bandwidth. My first exposure to Mobius, let's say, was the horny goof in Heavy Metal magazine, which of course had shown up in Metal Hurlant first. But the horny goof was this cartoon about this character that was, let me see, I can't remember what his face looked like, okay, but he was something like this, I suppose. And this is probably going to be a bit of a violation here on YouTube, but the whole cartoon was this guy walking around with a schlong about this size, and it was called the Horny Goof. And I'm like, what? Like, what is that? Like, what? I don't get it. What's the point? But that was what it was. It was in Heavy Metal magazine, I think in probably 1983 or something. That was my first exposure to Mobius. Yes. Mobius. And then I think he, if I'm not mistaken, he just kind of had a Widowmaker, I think. And the guy just kind of up and died. Unexpectedly, kind of thing. Okay. So in this case, probably what we want to do is use our, and we might want to turn off the sketch. So I'm just going to use this. What I've been doing is when I do eyes, pretty much I just hand paint them. You could do the lasso thing, obviously, if that's what floats your boat. But it's all good. It's all good. Oop. Okay. Gonna have to touch up the hair there, or I mean the skin there. Hair too, because I got to do the eyebrows. But first we'll go through and punch up all of these. That one looks okay. That looks okay. Okay, so I think we're here. Let's get the bendy. or Bindu, or whatever you call it. I don't even know what you call it. I think it's Bindi. Okay, not going to show it in these. Did I just do... I think I just did the Bindi in the wrong color. Let's see. Maybe not. Okay, so what I want to do is grab this. Let me go back to the first Tia picture. Again, sorry I'm a little sniffly today. I wasn't until I started live streaming, and then boom, all of a sudden I'm dripping. Like literally dripping. Like, what the heck? What the heck, people? Alright, I'm going to actually, this is so annoying that I'm going to take a little break. Short break. I'll just like play some show. Let this play for a bit. And I'm going to go attend to my schnoz. Okay, I'll be back in just a minute. Alright, I'm back. I got me my brewski. And by the way, for those who have been wondering for all these years, all the way back to 1999, yes, it's true. The Matrix, it turns out, was a documentary. And the proof is very interesting. It isn't really proof because you cannot ever prove anything scientifically. A lot of people don't know that. The purpose of science is never to prove anything. All you can do is gather more evidence that the thing you think is true might actually be true. What science does with a well-crafted experiment is give you the opportunity to falsify and prove wrong what you thought was true, for the simple reason that if you can even create one instance where it doesn't work, then clearly it must be the case that it's not working all the time, and that your positive wasn't necessarily a false positive, but it may have been a false signal in terms of drawing a conclusion. Anyway, why do I mention all this? Well, they did an experiment, and the experiment basically amounted to, you guys can YouTube, look it up. There's not a lot of material because what you'll find on it kind of repeats itself, like people repurposing interviews with just a very few key individuals. But the gist of it is, it's pretty funny, actually. Okay, so here's what it is. This will be my little indulgence for the moment. What they do is they shine a red laser. I believe it's a 650 nanometer laser on a wall. So they're just shining a laser on the wall. Okay? Then they have the subjects take DMT. So they take a dose of DMT, and then they walk up close to the wall and they look up at the laser. And I shit you not, hundreds of people have done this experiment, And not only do they report the same thing, but there will be 15 people all doing it at the same time, and they'll all be reporting the same thing. And what they see is, when they look into the laser, it's like they can see multidimensionally, and they all report the same thing. What they see is code. They see stuff like this, just like you saw in the Matrix. The code flowing through the screen. They actually see the code in reality. And if you move the laser, the code doesn't move with it. Right? So the code is baked into the wall that the laser's shining on. In other words, the wall appears under DMT. The laser reveals that the wall is in fact made of language. It's made of code. It's all a simulation. Isn't that cool? I think it's super cool. I don't see it as a problem. It's actually mega cool. So look it up. You'll find that I'm not just making this up. Okay, I thought in OT and Tahoma had a way to save and load your palette. 100% Amar, it does. I just haven't done the work. I need to. Basically what I'll do, and I did it in another scene, and I just haven't done the housekeeping. But the housekeeping would be to pull up the palette from that other scene, and then perhaps break each character, just make a bunch of copies of the palette, eliminate the colors that are not for the character at hand, and then save it under that character's name, and you're done. So, yes, I kind of did it, but, this housekeeping does help, but it's not that important. Okay, so this is not the Bindi, or Bindu, or whatever the hell it's called. And there we go. Yes, it is. So actually, what the deal is I had colored it 2 different ways. So I committed the cardinal sin. And so now what I'm going to discover, probably, is that if I change this color, it's going to turn out some of them were red and some of them were blue. Yep, there it is. Blue. Okay. So, Mr. Incompetent here, admittedly, needs to fix his mess. So, I need to go through the whole deal. And, in fact, we probably should put this in freehand mode. And let's get all of these converted to the correct color. So, again, sorry about that, folks. This, then, can be her outfit. Actually, there was something... Let me go back here. Something I was missing. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to stay in freehand mode. And just so I don't make a dumb mistake, I'm going to go Control G. I'm sorry, just G. Okay, when I hit G, it takes me to the correct material. Okay, and now I can go through and basically punch up her eyebrows where it's appropriate to do so, which I think this might be. Yeah, there's not really much there, so cool. So this would be Tia Iris, and this would be Tia Garment. Now the garment isn't actually blue, friends. That's just a hijab. Hijab is the outfit. Bindi is the dye. Keep this stuff. Yes. So yes, you can save your and reload palettes and reuse them and blah blah blah. There should be, yeah, I think you exported or something. I haven't done it in a while. No, it's you guys, it's not, it's down here. If we're speculating about this, then something's wrong, because you're probably spending too much time watching me and not enough time actually animating. But basically, there was a slightly blue tint to this, and then for the most part, it was gray. So we'll go with that. But yeah, it's all right here in these menus right here. See? Save palette as, save as default palette, blah, 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 blah. It's all right there. No big deal, guys. No big deal. All right, let's see how many leaks we sprung. Up, there's a leak. you have to stop everything, hit the B key, switch to B mode, and find it. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Alt 0. I'm using my old hotkeys. I think it's there. The problem is it leaked into the hair. So let's just see what this does. That's okay, and that's not okay. Okay, so this is rather difficult because this is a good example of where it would be nice if there was a way to mute. I guess we could do it this way. We just turn it transparent because we need to find the freaking leak. And by the way, there's a little bit of a flaw we could probably stand to correct. Alright, so no shortcuts on this. You got to find the leak. It has to be somewhere along this path. It could be that right there. Could be. I guess we could find out real quick by. Yep, there we go. Apparently that was it. So now we go back to the hair and we can just turn it opaque again. Alright. Poof. So here's the garment. We'll have another leak. Nope. That's good. Cool. Yeah, I was pretty careful when I did the ink to not introduce a bunch of leaks. Brewski time. Okay, I believe that Mel and Tia are, other than mouth, are ready. Uh-oh. Oh, I did. I just realized I'm like, oh my god, did I turn my microphone back on? I can't remember. Apparently, I did. Okay, so now let's go back to Luca. And here I am hitting the old hotkeys instead of the new hotkeys. There's Luca. Alright, do we want TNR in there? It appears we do not. I wasn't sure if Tia was acting as the edge barrier for the fill operations. This, I guess we could put that there, shift it over to something kind of neutral-ish and darken it like a lot. This is supposed to be a little desaturated, but maybe slightly darker. And finally, his hat is... You might think this is risky behavior to just ballpark the colors, but honestly, I've been doing it for so long that when I cut it into the show, it usually turns out it's pretty darn close to right. Just on instinct, so... Ah, there's your problem. Okay, so we'll come back to the... Whoops. Let's go ahead and zoom in close. Okay. Now we're going to try this. We're going to turn this on. And for the fill tool, we are going to click Refer Visible. Theoretically, that means that TNR should serve as an effective barrier here. Okay, so that's interesting. I've never seen that happen before. I have never seen that happen. That's a bit strange, but okay. So, you know, there's never a day that goes by that doesn't involve bumping into yet another something that doesn't work quite the way you thought it did or whatever. It's absolutely, literally every single day. Every live stream. Now that actually turned out okay. That turned out okay. But these guys, I guess I need to completely encircle them. Didn't do any good. Didn't do any good. So let's go to normal. And this is pretty freaky. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the B key. So I'm actually using the B key. And I'm going to just create a border like that. Let's see if that does the trick. Nope. Okay, so let's turn Refer Visible off. Okay, something's leaking. Something is leaking. Right? So we're just going to, if it takes us 5 hours to find the leak, we are going to find the leak. No matter what. That's it. Sorry to sniff, guys. Okay. This is, there is no such thing as animation software where it is not true that the main thing that's going to frustrate you and drive you up, make you want to claw out your own eyeballs, is always going to be fill operations. Always. It literally never fails. And it doesn't matter what software you use. I am unaware of any such thing as any animation software that actually does a good job on fills. Now that software may exist. I just haven't seen it. And I'm not saying it would be easy to make it so it's good or anything. It wouldn't be easy. Yeah. So yeah, this is okay. Why that worked, I have no idea. Not a clue. But what I'm going to do now is, well, shoot, I can't just. I don't know, maybe I'll get lucky. I guess I did. Like that. See, this is, it's a judgment thing. Should that be a leak? I don't know. This is set at 5 to 10. That seems to be a good middle ground. Let's set it at 0 to 3 and see what happens. See? But then these didn't fill. So, pick your poison, friends, If you set it here, then probably the thing to do would be this. Set this at 10. For me, other people will have a different approach. But basically set this where I had it. Okay, let me think about this for a minute. If 10 leaks, okay, and to me, I want it to respect this line. So that means, frankly, that it's probably, I don't know what the default is. Like, I know if I hit shift, it's going to use the maximum. So that tells me that probably what I want, I don't think I want this at 0, but I'm just going to say maybe between, I don't know, let's go 1 to 6. Okay, 1 is okay. If I hit shift, 6 literally fills everything, which is crazy. So I'm going to go from 1 to, God, what do we do? Let's do 3. Whoops, shift. Okay. 3 feels about right. Okay. This was set at 5 before, so I'm actually going to just lock it in at 3. I actually think that's, other people's experience may differ, but for me that's probably best. And that's because what I'm using for an ink brush. And by the way, hit the B key here. Zoom back in. I meant to put in some little indications of the kids. Yeah, so there's no necessarily one size fits all answer as far as inking or filling settings, but there's certainly nothing in the annals of animation work that has slowed me down more than having to fight with the fill tool. Or springing leaks, etc., etc. So I don't want freehand mode. That's pretty good. I have to say 3 seems about right. 3 seems pretty good. Okay. Now there's an example. Let me look closely here. I would prefer it to respect that. So I'm going to put this to 0 and see what happens. Okay. All right, somebody's knocking at the door, guys, so hang on a second. We're going to do two things. We're going to transition to this, turn the mic off, and play some show. Got to go help my neighbor for a minute, so I'm going to be gone for about probably 3 minutes. Okay. Well, it is that time of year, getting gardens in, and the neighbor wanted to borrow my rototiller. And I'm fine with that. So, boom, boom. Okay, so yeah, I kind of actually feel like I am getting my the fill settings dialed in. It would probably be a matter of probably leaving it at 0 most of the time, maybe 1, and then hit shift, crank it up to 3 every once in a while. So file, save all. I'm going to go ahead and render this just because it's already in the show, and now that the color's in place, we got to deal with mouths, lip syncs, shadows, obviously, backgrounds. There's still quite a bit to do. Looks like I missed the whites of Luca's eyes. Okay. So back here, and I guess what we'll do is we'll just pop in a new material, make it blood red. That just makes it easier to see, and then I can go ahead and dial in the whites of the eyes idea. So now I'm going to hit the V key and switch to my other stylus. Okay, boom, boom. Okay, yeah, right here. So V key. This is a really wide shot. It's not like you'd, I mean, if I didn't put in the whites of the eyes, you probably would never notice in a million years, because he's pretty small on the screen. Okay. So I guess we can render that. Hit the rewind button. Now, one of the interesting things about Tahoma, I must say, is that I've been actually spending time in the timing window lately, getting comfy with the Tahoma timeline. I've been pretty much an X sheet guy. Obviously, I use a timeline in Blender, I use a timeline in Krita, but for whatever reason, I've been kind of focused on the X sheet in Tahoma. However, I gotta admit, it's been kind of cool getting comfy with the timeline. For one thing, control mouse wheel works, in a way that is intuitive and sensible, which is not quite how it works in Krita. Honestly, I gotta think about this for a minute. In my opinion, it would actually not be bad to have an extra X sheet right here. I'm going to play with that. Let's pop up an X sheet. Let's see if this'll, can we, if I remember, there was sort of a trick to it back in the day, unless my interface is locked. Now, I may be once again into one of those little domains that is something that's like totally easy to do. Like any idiot could do this. Boop, done. But I can't, because I just don't know what the secret is. There's a secret. What is this? Oh, I know what this is. Oh, I know exactly what this is. This is the one thing in the interface that doesn't have a pop-up hint. Oh, and there it did. Okay. Open function curve editor. Right, so that would be the curves. And apparently you have to click it twice, because the first time you do it, nothing happens. So I'm going to go to the comments here. Hey, you guys. Hey, Tom's here. Good. So Tom will know the answer. Click the padlock at the top right of the main window to unlock the document. Okay, cool. So do this. Okay. Then probably I should insert this first. What I'm looking for, the thing I'm talking about being the secret, is the idea that you, with OpenTunes, Tahoma, whatever, what you do is you have to grab really close to the edge, and then right there, you can see the red line. That is what I want. So I'm going to pop that in there, and then this one I'm going to kill and get rid of. That actually makes more sense to me. I do like working with the timeline in terms of tweaking an animation, but in terms of I don't know, like dealing with the organizational aspect of creating new levels and stuff, I'd actually rather deal with the X sheet. Little strange probably, but that's me, so whatever. Now this is interesting. Golly, I hadn't really noticed that before. So apparently the scaling, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I never noticed this before. It's such a goof. Man. Okay, let's keep rocking. Okay, so the main problem, actually, now I'm starting to double think my idea, because the problem I see now is once you get into it, once you start dealing with this, the very next thing you immediately want to do is deal with your palette, because you need a material in order to draw something. So I'm better off back here. I don't know. It's an evolving process, friends. It's evolving. Okay, so now, just to be on the ball here, I should probably re-click this, should I not? Or I'll be sorry. Okay, well, this would be Mel's mouth. And so we're going to hit the B key and just go boop. And that creates a new level. Do we want to use a smart raster level? I guess it doesn't matter much. It doesn't matter much. So I'm going to grab this so-called ink layer and just go with that. And of course it's set to freehand. That's what we'll do. Okay, so, and in this case we'll put one keyframe behind, because we're going for anime style. Voiceover, or lip sync, I guess is the proper term. And again, I'm sorry for sniffling, guys. I've been absolutely 100% sniffle free. There's been no allergy issue this year. I start live streaming instantly. Gun goes off. I'm just like, I'm dripping like a sieve. I have no freaking idea why. Okay. Maybe save by, I'm going to go back here. Maybe save box also has to be on. That was at 12:05. To give that border on the page. Changes to nightlies have been happening frequently. Why do you leave it at ignore gaps? Wait. Yeah. No, I thought, Darren, I think it's shift, not control. And the only reason I remember that is because I remember you telling me it a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it's shift. Shift is what makes it go to the max setting. So there is no algorithmic choosing between the low and the high. If you just do a fill, it's going to choose the low, I believe. This allows you to have two different values you can use depending on if you hold control or not. Maybe it is control. I'm seeming to remember it was shift, and everything I did 10 minutes ago was all using shift. This allows you to have two different unlock, upper right, yep, got it. Padlock, under the red X. Now lock it again. Yeah, Tom, good reminder. I did remember to do that. Having two timelines are actually can cause issues. Yep, that was the thing. You start scrolling around, and the minute you break the bottom here, things start like going really, really freaking fast, and I'm not really sure. This is a long-standing issue it's existed forever. And I agree. This was a bad idea, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it like this. Actually, strike that. You know what makes the most sense here? Probably get over yourself, Dave, and just get used to the timeline on its own merits, and then go ahead and put in the. I have to look and see what the panel I need is called, because I absolutely do not remember. Style editor? Yes. Okay, so style editor is one of them. Okay, and again, okay, we need to unlock. We need to hold it near the edge. I guess probably like that. Nope, like that. There we go. Yes. Okay, so now we've got the style editor in there. And then what we want is the palette as well. Palette. And of course, the way that palette looks is definitely not what I would prefer. So is it a right mouse click? Yes. And I like, we've got the palette gizmo style editor. Forgive me, friends. I'm looking for the obvious thing. This is what I was looking for. That. I like list view. That's me. Other people may have a different opinion, but I happen to like list view. Okay, so having the materials there, probably useful. Ain't gonna lie. It feels to me, maybe it's 'cause from using Krita, actually. You'll notice in Krita, what I have is the timeline on the bottom, my layers over here, and that would be analogous kind of to the X sheet in a way, but then all the painting stuff's over here. So maybe I'm just used to that, and that's why that feels right to me. But like now that I have this up here, it feels like this really wants to be on this side, but it's not a big deal. Okay, let's relock and get back to work. So it is dialogue time, and I got to look at the script. Look at the script, friends. He says, actually, I've got to go back to the show. Bear with me, friends. I'm looking for a bit of dialogue that is unknown, which, if you'll notice here, I have markers that tell me where certain lines of dialogue are supposed to begin. Yeah, so he says, I don't blame you, TNR. It's hard to imagine your family being worse than being stuck in the wilderness with you know. Right there is where he says that, us. She says, you mean the family that sold me into the stupid marriage? No, I was referring to the family that gave you a pathway to the throne. Yeah, married to that jerk. He is a jerk, that's true. Okay, so that's what the line of dialogue is. Okay, so he says, he is a jerk, that's true, but what if they have troops in Nippur? Vespar's not going to let this go. Okay. Okay, Tom, Darren, anybody, do you guys remember, I know this has come up in the distant past, but this is something that I really, if there's a way to do it, I need to freaking learn it. Okay, I've got 2 keyframes, and Darren, it seems to me, and by the way, thanks for the tip on the 2D room that has the timeline. Okay, it seems to me there was a way to put in keyframes and then do something so that then there's a wiggly line instead of a straight line. Let me see if I can find the straight line here just for comparison purposes. Not really, but where there's a wiggly line or something, this is going back into ancient history here, and what it means is that these 4 are just going to keep repeating. So you're not having to manually cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. It just, this is my sequence, I want it to last forever until I tell it to stop. It's effectively holding the loop. The wiggly line is only for animation keys. Oh yeah, that's true. So is there no way? That's what I'm looking for. Right, I understand that. My question is this, and this only. Is there such a thing, yes or no? If there isn't, I'm not going to waste my time thinking about it or complaining about it. But hey, and Pixie Burek, by the way, welcome. You're new here. Okay, so my question is there or is there not a way? Darren would know. If Darren doesn't know, Tom will know. And if Tom and Darren don't know, there is no one in the known universe who knows. Okay, so that's the fact of the matter. So what do you think? Is there a way to make these repeat? For now, I'm not really hearing much of an answer, so I'm going to go like this and let him repeat, do it the hard way. You're developing a game that looks like The Truman Show. I saw it and I wanted to watch it. Looks like The Truman Show. You're referring to The Truman Show in the sense of the movie? The only reason I call the animation live stream the Animation Truman Show is because you're literally looking over the shoulder at real animation of a real show. And to be honest with you, my friend, it's the last thing most people on planet Earth actually want to sit and watch. Like, that's why I only have 3,000 subscribers and have had for like 5 years. Nobody actually wants to see this. It's like watching sausage being made. It's really, really kind of dangerous. You can reuse the... Okay. Darren, thank you. All right, let me go back to this. You can use the repeat option in the context menu. Okay. That I remember that, but isn't that that's just a shortcut for hard coding the loop? That's just a shortcut. So mechanically it resembles the Truman Show, but the gameplay is a bit different. Puzzles, lights, action. Cool. Well, keep rocking on it, buddy. Okay. Each step. Duplicate. Nope. I'm just looking for it. I'm trying to find it. Where is it? In edit. Oh, yes. Edit cell numbers. Of course. How intuitive. What a fool I am that I didn't guess. Duplicate the cells is hidden under edit cell numbers. Wow. Okay. We will... How many times are we going to do it? Let's just do it 4. Boop. Okay. It's an evolving thing. I mean, it's hard. It's one thing you'll notice with Reaper and Blender and, of course, Tahoma 2D or OpenTunes is that there are many, 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 many menus. And you have to take the time to get to know them. The trend these days, of course, is to try to make software ostensibly simpler when, in fact, it never actually is any simpler, other than for the most trivial of operations. So I'm really not criticizing. The truth is, where would you put it? I'm not sure. I am not sure. Okay, the lip sync looks great. So he says, well, he is a jerk, that's true, but what if they have troops in Nippur? Vesper is not going to let this go. He is a jerk, that's true, but what if they have... Okay, this actually came out about right. He is a jerk. Oh, hello? Go back to the beginning there, friend. Jerk, that's true. Okay, so this bit here... I got to redo it. So we'll go with this. We'll cut these out. Actually, well, yeah, I'm not going to be able to reuse them because his body changes position, so I'm going to have to redo the mouse shapes. So therefore, let's go B key and he's a jerk. That's true. He is a jerk. That's true. Okay, this should hold. This is one area that I got to tell you. This is one thing that Krita does right that I think Tahoma gets wrong, which is that when you're extending. So I'm just throwing this out there for Tom, just because he's in the development community. I would say this: in Krita, when you grab a keyframe and you're dragging it to a new position, watch what happens. Do you notice that the actual animation of the scene continues? So that as you consider dragging and dropping that keyframe, you can in fact see the animation context in which you're dropping it into. That would be a good feature here. And the way that would work is if I stretch this down, wherever this is should in fact be the active frame. That would be a good thing. So just throwing that out there. So I assume this is where the rest of the dialogue starts. So let's go. He is a jerk, that's true. But, okay. I'm going to make this a little easier on myself by not using the intermediate frame. But, okay, I'm going to turn that back on so I can see what the freaking heck I'm doing. But what? Okay, so for those who are wondering, I use anime style lip sync for 2 reasons. What do I mean by anime style lip sync? The basic, there's variations, but the basic pattern is big mouth, smaller, back to the big, back to almost closed. And what that does is it says you could put this under any dialogue at all and it will work. Okay? Why do you do that, Dave? Number 1, because it's easier. Number 2, because my show is in fact distributed worldwide, which means it's in all different languages. You could do it this way, by the way. Hit the S key and just shrink that way. Okay. That's an intermediate. That's an intermediate. Or no, it's not. Okay, Control C, Control V. Control V. I have no idea how many of these I need. He says he is a jerk, that's true. But what if they have troops in Nippur? Okay. But what if they have troops in Nippur? I mean, golly, I guess I'll go with one more and then put this here, hit the B key, and just go like this. Alright. And we give him a second or so of pause. Okay, that happened to work out nicely. And now I'm going to zoom back in, and that I don't want to see right now. Okay, so this should be a big. Now we can turn that back on. A big, a smaller, back to the big, and then back to almost close. And he says Vespar is not going to let this go. I'm totally guessing here, but if I'm correct, that will work. Okay, let's fill these. 1, 2, 3. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, so let's give it a crack. Okay, he says, he is a jerk, that's true. But what if they have troops in Nippur? Vespar's not going to let this go. Let me do that one again. Blah, 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 blah. But what if they have troops in Nippur? Vespar's not going to let this go. Okay, this was wrong. So I'm going to say, I'm going to hit undo twice, 3 times. Hello, there it is. Okay, and put this here. Now, I notice that the mouth shape looks a little bit dense compared to the outlines, and that creates a bit of a distraction. So I'm going to just smack it to there and keep rocking. What does she say? If you, hello, want to get rid of me. I'm going to go 2 frames. Just say the word. Okay, can you actually be that sloppy about it and have it work? Yes. Emphatically, yes. Lip sync is actually pretty much one of the easier things to do. So she goes like that. Okay. Melchizedek. Kind of blown away that it's almost 1 p.m. Okay, sorry for that little interruption. Okay, C says, well, okay, so this would be, well, and then there'd be a pause. I'm not saying. I'm going to do that. Let's see what we have here. What do we have here? Hello. Guess that goes down to there. Okay. As usual, let's get these babies filled. Okay. Turn off the skins. Rewind. Alright. He is a jerk, that's true. But what if they have troops in Nippur? Vespar's not going to let this go. Gotta fill those in. Okay, let me do a couple things. There's a bit of a characterization problem here. So obviously these need to be filled. Right here, we have a bit of a problem. Yeah, that's definitely way the heck off. I'm pretty sure I can ballpark this and get it dialed in a little better. Yeah, that's way too low. I actually think that should be maybe turned a bit. Boo-doo-boo-boo-doo-boo. It's kind of weird because I grab it. I'm just using my mouse right now. And when I move it, when it feels right, like boom, there, it's like all of a sudden I see Tianara. It's pretty crazy how that works. Boom. Boom. Yes, friends, always flip your canvas. Not a bad idea. Okay, yeah, and that is... I like that. I'm actually going to stretch that a little bit. I actually like that a lot. The characterization there is awesome. Okay, so obviously this would have to end here. So let's take all of these and just delete them. You don't want to hit Control X. If I hit Control X to cut them, all these frames down here will be ripple edited. They will fill in the empty space. So just something to be aware of. Delete and Control X do not behave the same way in the X sheet. All right, what's going on in the live stream? Well, people are chit-chatting. Jim P, does Tahoma have a mode where it just draws fills as lines temporarily? I don't think so. I don't know why. Can you say a little more there, Jim, about why that would be helpful? Are you? I mean, I would just assume you're looking for some sort of performance. Could I turn on the subtitles for my next? Throw in some keys that do nothing, then click to repeat automatically. Do I have a Blender tutorial? Okay, let me work backwards here, guys. So, Jim, if you could post an answer if you're still there. Like, what would be the benefit of doing a fill operation that doesn't actually show the fill operation? Because you'd still need some sort of signal. You need a signal to know that the fill operation occurred successfully as intended, and whatever that signal would be, you're having to render that into the screen pixel grid just the same as you would have to render the fill. So your performance expense is no better by having some sort of proxy, actually. It's still the same expense. Just to display the outlines mostly with onion skinning. Yeah, the way I approach the question you're asking probably would be to say that your focus should be on the order of operations. In other words, turn on the onion skins when you're doing your line art before you do any fill operations. Use your onion skins and make sure the drawing and the animation flow is correct before you start coloring. That would be my best advice. That's like across the board good advice for anybody that's doing animation. And it is a trade-off. To be honest, it's a trade-off, and it's a trade-off that it's just a tool in your toolkit that you get comfortable with to know when to do it this way and when to do it that way. What am I talking about? Well, if I, for example, am using sculpting tools in Blender, or I'm using the liquify tool in Krita, or I'm even using the selection tool in Tahoma, where I can grab something and then manipulate it, you know, in whatever way I want to. Those tools save you time in animation. However, if you use those tools to effectively modulate a drawing that was already completely drawn, then you save more time if it's already colored and you're manipulating either a group of layers or actually the color and the ink are on the same layer. If that's the case, then you save time by having the first image in the sequence colored first. Because then when you do the distortions, you bend their neck, you move their arm, whatever it is, you're changing everything. The drawing and the underlying color, and you do your sculpt operation and it's done. Whereas, if you want more clarity for a more complex animation process that requires a lot of drawings, which I personally, frankly, have been doing more of lately, then you're probably better to leave the color for a second step, and the trade-off is I'm going to have to do fill operations on 7 frames instead of just 1. Why is that a problem? It's only a problem, and this is the key, it's only a problem if you have a leak somewhere. Because then you're going to have to go and repair the exact same leak in the exact same way 7 times. Right? So there's a little bit of craft involved in kind of planning your work and seeing. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually just pay the price on the first shot in a sequence. So I might create this, which was done, by the way, I believe, using the TNR stuff, I believe was done using the plastic tool. Right? So I had, in fact, this shot is a really interesting study. I'm going to actually go over here and take a quick break from this shot. You know, it's all got to be done eventually anyway. And I'm going to pull up N because I want to show you guys something. Okay. As I said, the TNR animation was in fact done with the plastic tool. What's interesting about it is that the transition from this, let me turn off the shadows so that the shadows aren't making it hard to see. Okay, where are Tia's shadows? I guess they would be here. And I guess whichever button I click is going to be the wrong one. Doesn't matter how many times I click it. It'll always be the wrong one the first time, and it'll be the right one the second time. Story of my life. Okay. What we notice here is that, let me see if that's it on the Tia stuff. Yeah. So isn't this interesting that we have a clunky animation where the transition from here, from this to this, did not work. Like, so I used the plastic tool. I set up a skeleton, used the plastic tool, and wound up with a good movement in the middle. Like, that's okay. That looks fine. But the transition from this pose to this pose didn't work at all. So here's what I did. My creative solution was, well, okay, let's just render the shot and then cut away. Once we get the movement that is good, you know, it runs out of gas, switch to Luca's reaction shot, and then continue with the other part that looked good. So that's just an example of how, you know, everything doesn't always go wonderfully with the plastic tool or whatever, but sometimes you can use editing choices later to compensate for the problem. So as far as paying that price I was talking about, a good example would be do a shot like this in Tahoma 2D. Okay, really, Dave? I just move one thing and all of a sudden everything just, like, the whole interface disappears. Okay. Do this all the hard way, but then bring the rendered image of Melchizedek into Krita, where it's already rendered and all the color and all the shadows, everything's baked in, and then just throw in some quick and dirty layers to add eye blinks, or, you know, even manipulate the eyebrows, lip sync, and then I wind up getting I get 1, 2, 3, 4 shots out of one shot, basically. And if you watch the show and you factor in that the dialogue is happening and that there's a story unfolding, what you find is that level of repetition is not a problem at all. Like, it's completely normal. I mean, look at any TV show. Anytime there's dialogue going on, you're going to be cutting back to the same exact shot of the same character like 20 times. It's not a problem, as long as you keep the story moving, right? Now, once we got here, I wanted to switch to some different angles, and I'll tell you what, there was actually a reason why. I realized, I mentioned this earlier in today's live stream, but I was noticing that I'm not getting as much leverage in this sequence as I normally do, and the reason is because every single shot has the background panning behind it, which means I can't run this shot in reverse. If I run this shot in reverse, even if it works perfectly, I'd still have to replace the background. So I paid a little bit higher price in this sequence for the wonderful joy of having a moving background. You can decide for yourself if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. But so anyway, here I thought, well, okay, let's switch to this new sequence to break things up, because we have used the same shots several times in a row. And why don't we move the camera into... The camera is now in the boat, and the camera is effectively pointed up a little bit toward our characters, which means I can probably be a little bit more loosey-goosey with the way the background moves, right? because you're not looking down at the riverbanks where you're actually seeing it drift by. From this angle, you would simply see a little bit of motion in the background. Making sense, folks? I'm trying to give you some tips here about sort of visual storytelling, whether it's movies or cartoons or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. Okay, let's go back to, I would assume the second one would be the one we're looking for. Yep. Okay. All right, so I'm going to quick check the... Nothing in the chat. Okay. Okay, so turn on the subtitles. I hadn't thought of. Don't... I mean, I know on your end you turn on subtitles or not on YouTube. Do I need to activate subtitles in order for you guys to see them? It's never come up before. If you can believe it, in 5, 6, 7 years, it has never come up even once. According to my live stream preferences, the stream language is in English. There is no caption certification. That's got to do with the legality of the audio. I do not see anything. I may be just moving too quickly, but I don't see anything that has to do with me deciding whether or not captions are available. My assumption would have been that they're automatically available. It's a question of whether you turn them on your YouTube app and or browser. So if somebody knows more than that about me, chime in, because I don't dink around with closed caption. Other than, when we watch an Asian show, which we do like every day, then we turn on captions, but that's our choice to turn them on and tell YouTube that we want them to be English. Okay, let's see where we're at here. It's pretty good shot. Frankly, when it's done, I'm gonna be at 22 minutes and 28 seconds, which is insane. Means I've only got about 1 more minute to finish up the episode. Okay, I forgot about Luca's lip sync. So we'll call this layer MOUTH. And by the way, probably should save our work. Okay, doesn't really matter who's doing the talking. The mouth color and whatnot is the same. So here, I believe he says, okay, from YouTube. Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thank you so much for looking that up for me. So I'm going to say, let's zip way in here and hit the B key there. Oh, come on. Seriously, friends? How is that even freaking possible? I was here. I guess it's absolutely incumbent upon me every time I come back to this column to change the freaking color. Okay. So he says, I believe he says, guys, focus. Tia is right. We can do this. Oh, shoot. I'm going to give each of these 2 frames. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to do. Undo. This, I'm just going to go over that a little bit. So he says, guys, Tia is right. We can do this. Fill. And we could do it this way. You could go like this and just make it bigger, but you'd probably want to turn on your skins so you can see where the previous shape was to center it correctly. It's going to soften it a bit, but that really doesn't matter too much. Okay. Control C. Control V. And morning, Val. Okay, he says, guys, focus. I'm going to grab this whole sequence. Tia is right. We can do this. I'm going to just kind of hope. Wait a second. Look at what just happened. Hang on. If I grab this, it stretches it. If I grab this, guys, it's doing exactly what I said I wanted it to do. I didn't even know you could freaking do that. Oh my gosh. So, okay guys, lesson learned, pop-up menus aside, if you have a group of cells selected, like this, and then you just stretch it down, it's going to just keep duplicating. I didn't know that. How did we go through that whole discussion and nobody pointed that out? Maybe nobody else realized, unless they pointed it out and I didn't understand the answer. That's crazy. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Okay. So he says, guys, focus. Yeah, he is right. The timing's all wrong, and this is debacle. So I'm going to quit there since my sweetie's up. I'm going to go hang out with her for a bit, and let's leave it at that for now. It's been a good live stream. A lot of people here. Sorry to bail on you. Steps, go to YouTube and click on the create button and select go live stream and set up your stream settings. Turn on closed captions and select automatic captions as the option. Okay, we'll do. I'll have to do that later. Again, thanks guys. It's been fun. Hope it's been useful, and as you know, guys, there will be more later. Boom. Boom.